we'll be talking about some modern trends in cost accounting and some ethical issues that cost accountants should be aware of. There are lots of things about cost accounting that haven't changed in the last 150 years, but some things have. And one of those is that we now live in a highly competitive business world. Because of that, each firm needs to look for ways to gain a competitive advantage in a global marketplace. One way to do that is through research and development. That means that each firm needs to find ways to provide the best possible products at the most attractive price to meet their customers' unique needs. So research and development, number one, affects products' costs. That would include both the cost to make the product and also the cost to market the product. Obviously, it's a lot easier to sell products that have a very attractive price and meet our customers' needs in some unique and wonderful way. One way to accomplish this would be to partner with suppliers on cost-effective designs. That way, the firm can make sure that it uses its resources wisely. Another way to compete is through design. That relates to the detailed specs for manufacturing our product. So, the way that we design our product is going to have a tremendous effect on how much it costs us to make the product. In addition, the way we design our product is going to have an effect on the quality of the product from the user's point of view. For example, we can make a product out of 16 separate components that need to be fitted together very carefully, or we could design it differently so that it's only made out of 2 or 3 components that are much easier to assemble and much less likely to have assembly defects. Another consideration is to use activity-based costing, which relates directly to the way that we design our product. Activity-based costing focuses on the activities that we do in order to acquire our materials, move them around the factory, use our machinery, produce our product, check it for details, pack it up, send it to the customer. We'll spend a significant amount of time in another chapter talking about these issues. Another area where we can gain competitive advantage is in the realm of purchasing. Obviously, if we have good performance measures that are related to the things that we do, we may be able to reduce or eliminate unnecessary costs. For example, if we acquire direct materials for our manufacturing process and those materials turn out to be defective or they don't meet our specifications, then we're going to incur a lot of costs in a way that is not going to enhance the customer's experience with our product. One thing that we can do is benchmarking. That involves setting standards for what we expect from our production inputs, and then we can compare our actual performance to those standards and see whether we've met our own goals. We can make standards for the quantity of materials or labor that we expect to use. We can also make standards for the price of the materials or labor that we expect to use. In that way, we can find the best combination of quantity and price to meet our production goals. Another thing we can do is to apply a kind of continuous improvement process in our manufacturing. The word for this is Kaizen, which was originally developed in Japan. The goal here is to do things a little bit better every time we do them, thus ratcheting up our production processes. But be very careful. Kaizen puts a tremendous amount of pressure on people who constantly feel that they have to beat their last time, beat their last cost. In addition, there may be some limit to the amount that we can improve on our prior performance. And finally, focusing too much on small, incremental changes to how we do things may miss out on the opportunity to rethink what we're doing and whether that's what we should be doing. So Kaizen alone will not give us ideal production. However, it is a good way to train ourselves to do things better. Speaking of production, we need to consider how to measure whether our production processes are operating appropriately. Most often, that can be measured at the work cell level or at the production level. A lot of firms have found that the old model of assembly line production, first established by Henry Ford, where each worker has responsibility for a very small task and does that task over and over and over again, may not be the best way to run a manufacturing company. Many firms have found that if they organize their workers into work cells and give those workers responsibility for a more complex set of tasks, it gives people more of a sense of pride and accomplishment and ownership and an opportunity to innovate compared to simply performing a tiny task 1,000 times a day, day after day, week after week. Another way that we might be able to improve our production is by considering moving to a just-in-time inventory system. Most firms spend a lot of money just carrying inventory. They have to order the inventory, inspect the inventory, record it, store it, move it around, take it out of storage, bring it to the production facility. Instead, some firms find that they can save a great deal of money by getting inventory only when they need it. We'll talk more about this topic in another chapter. Marketing is another way that we can gain competitive advantage. We want to establish good relationships between our customers and our management. That's going to help us to target our profitable customers and then make sure that what we offer is targeted toward their needs. Distribution is another area where we can gain competitive advantage. Some firms do this by outsourcing the distribution function, and they find that they can accomplish their purpose with less stress to themselves, better quality of distribution, and a cost saving. Customer service can be a great way to establish strong relationships with our customers. One theory is total quality management. The goal of this philosophy is to drive defects to zero, to make sure that everything that we do is exactly what we have designed it to be, exactly what the customer wants it to be. Generally speaking, defects are a terrible waste of our resources, and they tend to disappoint our customers. Quality is another way that we can improve customer service. Generally speaking, if we increase the costs that we incur to put quality into our products, that will reduce the costs of bad quality. It will encourage customer loyalty, and net, it will end up saving us money. In a competitive world, customers are not going to put up with lack of quality. So if we want customer loyalty, we need to make sure that we give customers products that are defect-free. Otherwise, they'll be looking to our competitors the next time they want to order. Enterprise resource planning is another tool that firms can use to reduce the cost of meeting their customers' needs. Basically, it is an information system that allows a firm to link all of its processes: material ordering, human resources, shipping and handling, inventory balances, manufacturing schedules, into a single database. For example, Microsoft Great Plains is a program that is especially designed to help firms to understand all of these components, even if the firms are highly decentralized, even multinational. A big issue for accountants is ethics, because accountants hold a privileged position within the organization. And because of that, accountants must make sure to conduct themselves with the highest level of ethics. The Institute of Management Accountants has an extensive code of ethics comprised of 4 major areas. Number 1, a management accountant must be competent. That means you must have the skills that you need in order to do the job properly. Number 2, management accountants must maintain confidentiality. That is, as a management accountant, you are in a position to know a lot about what's going on in the firm, and it is your job in part to make sure you don't reveal that information. Furthermore, as a management accountant, you must have high integrity, which means doing the right thing. When you do not act with integrity, you cast doubt on the entire profession of management accountants. So it's your job to behave honestly and fairly. Finally, management accountants must demonstrate credibility. That means providing your boss, your associates, other people in the firm's bookkeeper, with reliable information. Again, if you do not show credibility, people aren't going to believe what you say. Therefore, you lose the ability to provide useful information. Ethics for management accountants is also under the jurisdiction of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which was passed in 2002 after a long string of accounting scandals. there are a couple of components that relate to management accountants. Some of them address the governance problems that are inherent in the corporate form of organization. Others specifically relate to the role of accountants and auditors with regard to the firm. The goal of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act is to enhance corporate responsibility. And they do that, number one, by requiring the CEO and the CFO to take personal responsibility by signing a statement that the financial disclosures do not omit any relevant information. Another way to generate corporate responsibility is what's called Section 404 disclosures. In that document, the firm has to assess its internal controls to make sure that they are adequate either to prevent or to detect and correct material misstatements. And then the CEO and the CFO have to sign a statement saying that they have done this assessment and that the firm has adequate controls. Finally, the auditor comes along and checks the internal controls to make sure that the Section 404 report is an adequate reflection of the firm's actual internal control situation. This ends Chapter 1.